Awesome. Well, good afternoon, Andrew Fox, president of the BrickKicker Inspection Services, and this is episode 0001 to go with license number 00001. Today we're talking with Rob Klaus, who happens to be license number 01 and our director of commercial inspections and just a lifelong inspector and has a wealth of knowledge. Wanted to bring him on board for our first podcast. And hey, this is not meant to be perfect. This is going to be fun and laid back. But Rob, excited to finally dive into a podcast, I guess. I know we've been talking about it for a while. But thank you for I don't know that you've necessarily volunteered, but I know you don't have a problem doing it. So
I was definitely voluntold. But, or everybody took a step back in the line, and I was sleeping while standing on duty.
Yeah,
but we've been trying to do this for 8 months.
Yeah, absolutely. And then Zoom has got I think everyone in the country or the world for that matter has quickly learned how to use the Zoom platform or something similar. Do you like using it? I mean, have you found any?
Yeah. I use it all the time, and yet another stock I forgot to purchase.
Yeah, exactly.
The crystal ball is certainly not very good.
I think my crystal ball broke years ago. Or actually, I don't even think I got one.
See, I'm old enough. My crystal ball looks more like a kaleidoscope, and I can't see through the darn thing.
So foggy and mildewy. Oh, shit.
Yeah.
So, well, so this has certainly got to be in the history that you've been doing this. It's certainly got to be something that you haven't seen before. This COVID-19 and the dramatic overnight change to our industry. Has there been anything like this in the years that have you seen something so impact an industry so quickly?
Oh, absolutely. I don't think anybody has seen it impact any industry, but it's just amazing. In the 31 years I've been doing this, we've gone from never having a client, just out there by yourself doing 4, 5, 6 inspections a day, and they were more like an automated process to okay, now we're going to change into being a little bit more consultative, and maybe clients show up half the time to clients show up all the time and bring 4, 5, 6, 8, 12 people with them, and it becomes a circus and a television broadcast. To now all of a sudden, are we inspectors? Can we inspect? Should we inspect? Oh, wait, we're essential in our state, but you got to control your own destiny. Do you want to do this on your own, or do you let your clients come? If they come, how many can? Oh my goodness, it's chaotic right now.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I know 9/11 was pretty impactful all over the world, but that was a standstill and stare at the screen for 2 days. This is a shut everything in your life down, and then ultimately just changing the way. I mean, yeah, the airlines had to change some things, but everyone's having to change their most simple task every day. It's crazy.
You're right. I mean, I 9/11. I know I was on an inspection at 9 o'clock in the morning, and the sellers had the realtor ran inside and turned the TV on in the home, and we all sat there agape and aghast at the situation, to the point that you're right. And the whole world shut down for a week. And I know you recall, and I recall vividly, we weren't really told what to do until about a week later, when David Letterman went on the air and said, "It's okay, we can smile again."
Yeah.
Don't let them get us down. I mean, there's an old Latin phrase that I can't recall right now, but it's "Don't let the bastards get you down." Lenny, the co-founder of our company, he had that phrase down. He'd recite that Latin phrase twice a day to us. And there's a memory I forgot, but we haven't had that yet.
Hmm.
We're still in the middle of you can't turn the news on that's on now 24 hours a day and not hear the gloom and doom
Yeah.
of our society.
Yeah, it's crazy, and I don't. The agents I'm talking to, though, even though there is a lot of gloom in the news, the agents I'm talking to are pretty optimistic, and I think we just have to be. This is a kind of a cleansing of many industries have been cleansed pretty quickly in the last 2 months, but you're not going to succeed if you're not out there being positive and trying to help your fellow neighbor out. So you've been around a long time. You've seen these things come and go. You've seen the involvement of the realtor change over the years. But before all that even happened, what sparked your interest in doing this type of work?
Well, I'm an odd duck, per se. That goes without saying, but I've got a degree in industrial technology construction with a major sequence on residential construction management and inspection. Big, long, doesn't even roll off your tongue. But I
Mm-hmm.
had a choice when I graduated college with my bachelor's degree of I could go work for a municipality and be a code enforcement officer. I could go work in heavy construction like I was doing while in college and be an inspector on roads, bridges, and highways, which I was very good at. Um, I could go sell real estate. I could go do a bunch of things. And I went into heavy construction. I never liked the idea of working for the bureaucracy of the government or municipality. Um, that wasn't my cup of tea. While it's might be the most steady, uh, easiest job to life out on.
Mm-hmm.
All you gotta do is go out and hide for your 8 hours a day. Do what you need to do, and don't get caught messing up. And
Yeah.
you got a job for your 35 years. Um, I never went down that path, and I got a unique situation where my father's oldest friend started a home inspection company down in New Orleans back in the mid late 80s. And my father, who's a civil engineer, my brother, who's got the exact same degree as mine, and myself would go down there for all the major holidays, and we kind of apprenticed under him. My father worked for the government and was a couple of years from retirement, and we were trying to decide what we were all going to do when we grew up, and whether it was start a large home inspection company, start an engineering company, start a consulting company, build houses. We didn't know, but we wanted to explore it all. And at
Mm-hmm.
the end of the day, I did several dozens of inspections down there. And I came back to Chicago, and I'm working for an engineering firm doing heavy construction, road building type inspections. And my father kind of kept poking me in the ribs, going, "Hey, dude, uh, you know, why don't you go sell real estate?" And I can't sell. I don't like selling something that's not me.
Yeah.
I can sell me all day long. I can sell something that I'm very passionate with, but I couldn't sell Susie and Bill's house because I'm really not passionate about Susie and Bill. I might be
Yeah.
passionate about the commission, but
Yeah. Yeah.
and I could have learned that, I suppose. But at the end of the day, that just wasn't me. And so I started with the letter A in the Chicago phone book and got down to C, calling all the home inspection companies listed. And BrickKicker is one of the few that called me back. And that was 1991, and so that's the rest is kind of history.
Yeah. It's and for a lot of people that may listen or have an inspection done, they don't realize that back then in early '90s. the inspection industry, even to today's standard, is still very, very young and not an old industry whatsoever. Did you hear about inspections and stuff when you were in school?
In school, only for municipality.
Yeah.
My professor, my professor, a full-on doctor of education, was a builder as well. He built 200-300 houses a year, and not once did we ever talk about in my entire curriculum the idea of private inspections, which was really odd and unique. But
Yeah.
that was 1989, and the industry was, today, this is 2020. We're only about 47 years old as an industry. So it was really fledgling back then, in the late 80s. So no, it wouldn't have even have been a career path for somebody coming out of college like it absolutely could be today.
Yeah, that's the one thing. That's the kicker is getting in the eyes or the ears or the whatever of today's younger generation. Man, if I would have known about this when I was in high school, this would have been something that, man, I would have jumped for joy having an opportunity like this. I am blessed with college and that whole experience as well, but. I probably would have thought twice if this was an option. And I think we can't get the message out enough to the younger people out there that this is an aging industry. Even though it's young, the people that are in it have been in it from the beginning, and now who's going to come in and replace them?
Oh, you're absolutely right. I mean, there was a statistic that you and I have been talking about for a few years, that the average home inspector is 57 years old, with this being their second career. I mean, that's pretty telling. Where most of this industry is retired, nail pounders, tinsmithers, HVAC contractors, electricians, remodelers, or engineers that have decided to take this up in their latter years, and you're right, they're aging out. But frankly, I think the industry is evolving at such a rapid pace to technology that they're actually forcing themselves out by not adapting. So that attrition rate is pretty high as well.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But we get here at the BrickKicker, we get quite a few phone calls of people wanting to get in the industry, and I think it's becoming more well known now that home inspections is a thing, and it's an important piece of the real estate transaction. But it's, I think also there's the conception that it's a piece of cake to become a home inspector, and I don't know what you thought when you first started learning about it when you were just getting started, but I can imagine that there's plenty of people on the street that think, oh, it's a piece of cake. There's, not a lot of skill set required. But we talk about this internally a lot, but there is a skill set required, and that's communication skills. I mean, I don't know what it was like, in this business back then, but you didn't have digital reports. You didn't have pictures to show right away, at least. So communication was everything. So, I mean, that really hasn't changed, has it, Rob? The communication element of it?
It hasn't. I mean, I can think of my communication is different than others, probably because of my years in this business and having done over 15,000 properties. But when I first started at the BrickKicker, we had 3 pieces of white paper that were pre-printed, and we put blue carbon paper between each one so that we could transfer and make 3 copies on site. Then we evolved to a carbonless. But at either one of those two, we had a very, very, very finite amount of room for which we could write.
Yeah.
Take an exterior section that might have had 12 areas that needed to have some form of discussion. We're talking about soffits and gutters and and siding and foundation. So there was 12 different areas there that we were reporting on, but we only had 7 lines for which we could add a comment. So I learned right quick, as they say in the, to speak in bullet. The gutters are loose, period. Is that perfect King's English? Well, it might be close. Does it tell the story? It does. Does it tell the story where? No. But it did what we were supposed to do, because at that period of time, that was still pretty darn good compared to your neighbor who's doing this and doesn't really have the thought process, or they're buying something off a shelf because nobody was creating their own reports but us in our market back then.
And it's wild because at our meeting this morning and last month, the month prior to that, and probably the next few months, we're fast forward all these years, we're still talking about report writing.
It's every day.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny about what we do, what we're talking about, for lack of a different way to say it, we're talking about an ice cube.
Yeah.
And melt. So our inspection really is as fresh as an ice cube is still solid, which is about the same period of time we're at that house. Things change. Things change dynamically and dramatically in a very short period of time based on certain conditions. But yet, people like to take our reports, tear off the page, decoupage it to a piece of driftwood, and hang it on the wall so that the world can see it 5, 8, 10, 15 years from now. They still think it's valid.
Yeah.
And that's just not true. So we talk about this all the time, either amongst us in-house or when I get together with peers and you get together, I know, with peers and talk about it. It's how do we go back to the old days where everybody's not so suit happy and you can just say, here's the facts, here it is, own it. And if things change, it probably changed, go on with your day. It's yours. So I don't know where it's going to go in the future. But I would, if I saw anything, coming up, I'd love to see us go back a little bit more in time and go, hey, here's a confident report of the condition that we saw today between 3 o'clock and 5 o'clock. At 5:01 after I left the house, I have no idea what that condition is going to be like. But this is what it was at this period of time.
Yeah. Yeah, no, we hear that every day in our complaints that come in. I'm not saying we get complaints every day, but, the people that do call in, it's because, something wasn't said properly or didn't come out in the right tune, and they just don't understand it. And our reports, some say our reports are overkill or CYA, but then again, there's just enough out there that people don't read. And so if we don't put it in there, what happens? Everyone's in panic mode and they come after us. So I can't imagine it's been that much different. I think it's just become easier nowadays as opposed to when you got into the business. It just became a lot easier for people to voice their displeasure or to hide behind a computer and blast someone and not use good old communication skills.
You're absolutely right. But people are who people are, and I really think in society in the last decade with pressures, and I don't want to go into a huge philosophical tangent on this forum, but I think society as a whole the last decade has gotten very angry. It might even go back to the great crash of 07, 08, 09. So we can go back 15 years of how angry society's gotten, where at one point in your life, You could wake up in the morning, you got your $17 an hour job as the produce manager at the grocery store,
Mm-hmm.
and you've been stocking shelves, and that's fed your family of 3 kids, 2 dogs, and your spouse, and you got a house. Your spouse works part-time, and your kids are healthy and happy, and you've got this great job. Then all of a sudden you woke up that morning and you didn't have a job. That
Mm-hmm.
they closed your grocery store, and you're done, or they shut down that piece of the supply chain, or like today, that there's the COVID-19, and you're working at a meat processing plant where at one point it was elbow to elbow. Now there's 6 foot distance, so we've cut down 1/3 of the processing capacity of a
Mm-hmm.
24-hour shift. So that means that at least 1/3 of the processing employed aren't working where they were working a month ago.
Yeah, exactly.
So
So it's a
so
ripple effect.
there's a lot of stress out there, and the unfortunate thing in our business, in the transaction of the home, we're the easiest target and the lowest hanging fruit. And with that, probably the least enumerated with what we can charge for the liability, pressure, and service we provide.
Yeah. Yeah, and that has. I mean, that I think that's always going to be there too. I think it's just going to come with different heads, several-headed monster as time goes on.
Yeah, it's a hydra. You're right. It's a hydra, and it'll never change.
Yeah.
But boy, I hope 25 years from now, when I'm still in this business, that I see it and change a little bit. Get a little bit more. I don't want to start talking about driving pricing up, but the unfortunate thing that we touched on earlier in this conversation was there are some businesses that do this every day, all day long, as a full-time profession, and there are some businesses that this is their retired hobby. And when it's the retired hobby, they don't have to do multiple jobs in a day, and
Mm-hmm.
they don't have to do multiple jobs in a week, because all they're doing is supplementing their retirement income.
Yeah.
When there's other businesses like ours, there's 30 families that eat off of this one location, plus the other 75 families that eat across the country.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have to charge this like a business, and that does provide the ripple through the industry too. And we might not be as successful in getting the work because somebody else is doing it at a much lower rate. And so that'll never change either.
No, I like to compare it, Little America amusement park to Walt Disney World. There's stark differences in what you get for the dollar. You pay $7 for a day pass for Little America, and you pay $127 for a day pass to Disney. But you are getting an experience like no other at Disney. And that's the thing we're trying to drive home to our team as well. Is it's all about creating an experience, all about communication, and just have fun doing what you do. And we're poised with an opportunity to I think you said it once, to get in and snoop around other people's houses and to see the good, the bad, the ugly. I mean, you do that every day. No house is the same, and it's how can you not enjoy it?
Back in the day when I was doing 3 a day every day, 6 days a week, that was 18 different opportunities to meet 18 different clients and go through 18 different houses and write 18 different reports. That was pretty cool for a few years.
Well, fast forward, and before we fast forward to today and the different type of work you're doing. So license 00001, how does one get a license number 1? When did Illinois become licensed? It was 2002 or 2001?
2000.
Okay.
The act was passed. It took almost 18 months to have it cycle around and really become active.
Mm-hmm.
But the act was passed sometime in 2000. As soon as there was a period of time. I was the president of the Illinois chapter of or the Northern Illinois chapter of ASHI at the time. Very, very active, out there doing inspections. A lot of people knew me. And at the time when the act in Illinois was passed, the BrickKicker, between our offices in the Chicagoland, Northern Illinois, Rockford, Peoria, Bloomington, and Springfield, I calculated we were doing about 20% of every inspection done in the state. And so I immediately contacted the Office of Banks and Real Estate, who at that time was administering the license, as well as I sent a letter to my local state House representative and kind of gave him my vitae and said who I was and my passion to be there helping drive the bus. And so I was appointed to the first board. Now, upon that appointment, I heard rumor to the effect that licenses were going to start at 100. So there's somebody out there that's got license number 101, and they're really the first one that got their money in the door. But license number 01 through 99 were by appointment from the from the board. And so as soon as I heard they were going to be appointed, I got on my phone and I called the right person. I said, so if you're going to dole out these first 6 licenses to the members of the board, what's my chance of getting number 1? They said, well, you're the first to call, so you got it. And so right place, right time.
Yeah. Yeah. And I've taken, I'm not in this nearly as long as you, but I've taken phone calls of people calling and or pointing out that, an inspector's knowledge and skill set should be based on his license. I've seen them in forums and stuff like that, where someone's asking a question and someone chimes back in, another home inspector chimes in and says, well, if their license number, blah, 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 is higher than this, then they don't have any credibility because they're that new. So, to the point, whoever's got license number 101, I mean, yeah, you've got the first official license. Doesn't mean that any more than the person that's got 102 or 1111.
It's funny you say that. I look at our team of 18 guys, and we might have an inspector that's in the 10,000s in number.
Yeah.
But that inspector might be doing 500 or 600 inspections a year. When you look at the independent inspection company that might have a license that might be 3,000 or 4,000 sooner than his, doesn't mean that they've done more inspections.
Yeah.
It's because they might only do 150 or 200 a year, and they're very happy with that. And this BrickKicker inspector is doing 3 times more than that a year. So it's almost like their blade is sharper than somebody that only takes the knife out of the drawer once every 4th day.
Yeah, exactly. We've got that on our team too. We've got our team that it's full of personality and talent. Guys that love doing what they do and want to, have fun, do 1 a day or 2 a day. And we've got guys that bang these things out 3 a day. And I remember doing 3 a day, and I still would. not every day. So that's for sure, because it's exhausting after a while. And I give tremendous kudos to those guys that are still doing it and that taught me how to do it, because it is an art form. It does take a skill set to be able to stay in sync and in tune throughout the entire day. And so it's just interesting to see, but I'm glad that we have a variety on our team, because
Yes.
it helps. It certainly helps. So then so you went through that process. You got 01 for the taking, and then
Yeah. Then the original board, the very first charge of the original board, where the act says this is what a home inspection is and we shall be licensed. The adopted rule is how we drive down the road. So there's an act out there that says you need to have a driver's license, but the rules of the road are how we drive. This is what a stop sign is, and this is a yield sign. And so the very first board's charge was to write the adopted rule. And that took us about 18 months. Excuse me. And then in that 18 months, we had to devise a curriculum to get new inspectors trained. Well, on that board, I was the only one that was really a full-time trainer, meaning we're a franchisor. And I was training so many inspectors. So I had to laugh. I printed out our BrickKicker curriculum, handed it to them, and they didn't even change the font when they added it to the rule.
God. Wow.
So I've always laughed that every inspector is taking the BrickKicker course instead of the state course.
Yeah, it's a fun way to look at it, but we don't do off the street training anymore. Because
no, we did for about 2 years.
Yeah.
Illinois didn't grandfather anybody. Illinois basically said that if you have not been a home inspector longer than 2 years, you had to go back and take a pre-education course, period. If you were an inspector longer than 2 years or 250 inspections, then you had to go take your state license exam. And so in those first 2 years, there was a lot of people that needed to take a course. And that's when we were really doing training. We were training 15 inspectors every other week for 2 years.
Wow, that's phenomenal. That's some serious work, and now a lot of those have turned into competition, I'm sure.
But I always felt they weren't. I always felt the rising tide raises all boats. Mm-hmm. And when I get some of my peers go, how are you training? Why are you training? Oh, you're so silly for training. I stand back going, wouldn't you rather have somebody out there doing good work and saying this is a good industry, than somebody out there doing sloppy work, and then the next thing you know, there's an expose on TV about how bad inspections are?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, absolutely. I don't think it should be a question. You should always just do the best that you can always do, and not look for the cheap way out or the shortcut out. Yeah. And there's a lot of shortcuts in this business, unfortunately. And back to the little America compared to Disney World. I mean, your rising tides does raise all ships, and there's some out there that won't do that. And I don't attribute us not doing education anymore for their off the street because of competition. I just think it's become there's so many resources out there now for education. Probably way more now than was available back in 91, but it's so we have to look at it as a business and say why spend the money and the cost on educating off the street when they can go do it cheaper online, So
exactly. And it got to the point where it was only me. I did all the training, and it was draining. Training is draining. and it just it wore me out because we started class on a Monday, it go through Saturday, and then Monday the next week I had to do inspections all week, And then the following Monday after that, a new class started. And then the week after that would be inspections, and a new class would start. And it was just absolutely numbing.
Yeah.
So it was good to
Imagine.
have that run its course. But now today we're sitting here in 2020. There are 37 states that have some form of licensure or regulation. So that means there are still, let's see, if I do this math, I went to public school. So that still means there's 13 states that still have the wild, wild west out there. That if you print the business card, you are one.
And that's just crazy. I mean, I love our legal system to a certain extent because it gives certain powers to certain people and avoids monopolies. But something like that, regulation. I mean, it's wild that not every state's out there, but every state has their own power to regulate, and some states regulate way more than others. So I guess it's a catch-22. It's good to have regulation, but then there is such a thing as overregulation, which makes it harder for home inspectors to get started.
And Nelly, that starts back at their original boards when those licenses were enacted. We decided as a board that we wanted to make the entry level to the industry be a hurdle, but not a high hurdle.
Yeah.
Now, there's other states, it's not a high hurdle, it's an 8-foot tall high jump. It's luckily it's not a pole vault, it's a high jump. And so, it would be nice if there was a little bit more reciprocity. It would be nice if there was a little bit more uniformity across the land. I have no problems getting in my car and driving across the country. I think the driver's license is pretty uniform, but our home inspector's license is not. But that is not a windmill I'm going to fight.
Yeah, I can. That's probably pretty deep into the chain of politics and all that other stuff.
I sit on a national steering committee for the American Society of Home Inspectors, ASHI, and we get together weekly on our Zoom calls and discuss this because as this I'm on the membership committee of either finding new members or sorting through legislation that affects this industry. And the tangents and topics is just it's fractured and it'll never change.
So as you say, it's fractured. What do you think has been the biggest discourse then with that and over time? Because for a while there was a good old boy group of people. When you think home inspection, you think older gentlemen, with a little seasoned hair, noses way around the house, who's doing this on the side. But now there's companies like our own, multiple inspectors doing thousands of these a year. And the industry's evolving and changing, but why has it become so singled out or so different across the board? Why?
Well, the original boards wanted to protect their own, as I see, in my opinion. This is just my opinion. We know what opinions are like. But I believe very strongly that those original boards said, hey, okay, fine, we got to get licensed. Let's make this just the strongest license so that nobody new comes in and is my competition. Instead of looking around going, all right, well, this is going to grow. And if it's licensed, well, instead of 5% of the houses being inspected, maybe there's going to be 90% of the houses being inspected. I can't do 90% of the homes in Illinois. So there's enough work for everybody. We don't have to fight over the same fishing pond. So let's all just do great work and let's not make it so difficult. But there are states that have made it so difficult to get in that on purpose, that the only way you can get in is you've almost got to have your father or mother have already been there so that you can work with them so that you can continue on.
Yeah.
So it's very tenuous to me.
Yeah, and with the involvement of social media and the evolution of technology and things like that, I can only imagine that either the breakdown is going to happen even more so, or that's going to slowly start shifting back, and that breakdown won't be there as much. I don't know. It's interesting time of our industry and of our time. But to think outside the box and think of where we as a company could take it, I guess that's why history is so important. It's not to repeat the mistakes of the past, but to learn from them. To what can we learn from in our operation over the years?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, I think the best way and the only way to kind of move past some of these roadblocks that have been constructed is to either do one or two things: go out there and start acquiring companies that have already been licensed so that you can use them to help train the future, or just invest in the future and flat out go get licenses all over the place while you still can, and just keep I know doctors and lawyers that'll go out and get a license in a state that they might have a beach house in. Just so they can get work there, and so that doesn't mean that somebody that we couldn't do that, just to be prepared, because I can see this twisting and twisting and twisting and twisting more and more and more.
Yeah, and anyone that happens to get to come across this audio file, episode 0001, I think we'd like to position ourselves to acquire other businesses, other inspection companies that are on their way out for retirement and or consolidation, or maybe just want to get back to the basics and leave the minutia. The BrickKicker would be poised to be a candidate to make those purchases or those acquisitions. We have to start thinking that way. There's a lot of good independent home inspectors out there. You'd hate to see their work all these years amount to nothing just because they don't. It's all on a person. It's all on a human connection. And if they're not there, then why pick up the phone and call them? So to stress that, I think we'd be kidding ourselves if we didn't do it. So awesome. I hear birds in the background. You must be sitting outside.
I just got out of the car. It's just such a nice day that it's good to be outside and hear the birds chirp.
Yeah. Yes. So now you're on the CCPIA, and you're on the ASHI board. You've been chapter presidents and all that other stuff over the years. The CCPI? First off, what does it stand for?
Certified Commercial Property Inspectors Association. It's a mouthful.
Yeah, sure. I wonder who came up with that thing, who came up with that terminology. But nonetheless, you're a member of that, and you're sitting on the teaching board, and you're helping put that together. So commercial inspections is really starting to take off in your world, and I think you're happy with the difference or the change in scenery, as you alluded to earlier. 30 years of doing residential, I think change of scenery is always good.
It is a change of scenery. I mean, it's one of those things. We've got an awesome staff, and it's a large staff, and it's a fairly competitive staff. And I have been blessed to have moved around. I was the first full-time employee that BrickKicker ever had in 1992, and so between 92 and 2004, very happy. And in 2004, I took opportunity elsewhere, and so from 2004 till 2014, I had the opportunity to start a couple of businesses and sell them off and grow them. And so now here we are back at 2020, and we've always done commercial inspections, but we never really went after it. Nobody's ever really gone after it to the way we are. And with commercial inspections, they use the discipline that a home inspector has created. What I mean by discipline is we are experts at the route through a building. We have an inspector has this innate ability to see spatial relationship. You look at the cube, or you look at the square, or you look at the rhombus, or whatever it is, and to me, a good inspector could be standing in a basement going, "Hey, run into the living room, right?" And people, "What? Really? How do you know that?" Because I'm seeing space. And a home inspector has had this ability to develop a way to look at a building through systems. So this is the plumbing system as a totality. This is the electric system as a totality. This is the HVAC system as a totality. So taking those skill sets to a larger property is only a natural evolution. So for years, if a company is going to acquire a building, they always went to an engineer, a roofer, a plumber, an electrician, and an HVAC company to come in and look at that building. And at the end of the day, they're spending, $5, $7, $8, $9,000 in extra cost for that acquisition just to find out information. And they haven't even got anything fixed.
Not to mention the schedule, all those subcontractors in.
And the timing is, yes, and that's 5, 6, 7 different visits that need to be done. So then the natural evolution is one call does it all. And so taking that skill set of the systems and the vertical projection and the spatial relationships, we get called every once in a while. We might do 4, 5, 7 of these a year. Here and there, nothing really spectacular, nothing really ginormous. It's a little strip mall here, or it's an office space there, but or it's a house that's converted to a dentist office or a salon. But those are considered commercial.
Yeah.
So the CCPIA, or Certified Commercial Property Inspectors Association, which is an adjunct group founded by INTERNACHI, International Association of Certified Home Inspectors, they've had this SOP called COMSOP, or Commercial Standards of Practice, which really created this really nice box for an inspector to work in. Prior to that, there was a big national standard out there from ASTM. And ASTM, for all of our listeners, is that large testing agency that really does everything. The ASTM standard for how lug nuts get put on a car. The ASTM standard for how bird feeders get hung, to the ASTM standard for how building inspections need to be done. They're, and where you couldn't call them inspections, they're property condition assessments, and they're really written by engineers for engineers. And in doing that,
ASTM International, formerly known as American Society for Testing in Materials.
Yes. And so the way they wrote that, there was no thou shalls and shall nots. It was ambiguous. It was more when I read the ASTM standards, and I have done dozens of inspections of the ASTM standards. It's really, what does the report supposed to look like? that's really the outline of the ASTM standard. Not really how you look at something. It just simply what the report's supposed to look like when it's done.
Yeah.
And the ComSop from the CCPIA says the inspector shall look at the roof. And in looking at the roof, they must do X, Y, Z. So it's really written to the same type of level of standard of practice that a normal home inspection's written as, only the different context of a commercial. And so in 2016, we all huddled at the BrickKicker and said, there's a great deal of opportunity out there for a very modest investment. Let's go after this work and see what can happen. And so in July of 2016, we launched the commercial division of the BrickKicker, Chicagoland. And every year from 2016, we've double-digit percentaged the increase of work and revenue, to the point last week we did 175,000 square foot high school. Gymnasiums, auditoriums, cafeterias, classrooms, locker rooms. We were able to do that entire project in one day.
Yeah, that was an awesome experience. Really cool building, and just an overall, to be able to get it done in one day. I'm sure the client had to have been impressed with that, and I think the team really jumped through hoops and did a nice job. And that's like an experience that a lot of them are still talking. They were talking about it today on the call. It's pretty cool.
So it's one of those things that we've created, just like anything else, the model, the reporting, the systems that can take projects on, whether it's here or anywhere across the country. It's all reproducible. It's all replicatable to the point that we can do it because we got the skill set. We've taken and made the investment in Chicagoland that there's 5 inspectors on our team that air quote have been deemed commercial certified. They're individuals that I have trained, because see, with my connection with the CCPIA, I actually go out to Boulder to their headquarters a couple times a year, and I've actually written the entire curriculum for their business models as well as their roofing. So I teach the roof course, and I teach their how to get into the business course for them.
Awesome. Well, and it's things like this that can raise the ships with the tide. The rising tide raises all ships. It's organizations like this that take a collective of industry experience and different vantage points and puts it together into an evolution. So even our industry is evolving, and it's not even that old. So that's pretty cool.
You're absolutely right. I mean, it's every day there's something new. I mean, with the COVID, ASHI did very little online training. Very little. InterNACHI has the market really cornered, and they do an awesome job with their virtual classrooms. And they've really got that down to a science where ASHI, who's 25 years older as a society and a group, never touched it. Well, they had to change overnight, because all of a sudden every one of their members is locked in, and they're all panicked. And when an inspector gets panicked, then the world's going to fall down. And so ASHI stepped in and actually created curriculums overnight to help their members, be engaged in the industry through distance learning. And they were averaging 350 people per call, or per session. Well, while it wasn't virtual learning, it was more like Zoom learning.
Exactly.
They still don't have the facilities to be able to do distance learning to that order for continuing education, but they were doing Zoom seminars that were very well attended.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, and they seem to be staying on the forefront of education and getting this stuff out there. But that's why it's important with someone like yourself to get out there and share the knowledge, because it's only going to help. better everybody else.
Yep.
So,
If you know something, tell someone, because it's one of those things. If it dies between your ears and behind your eyes, it didn't get out.
Yeah, it doesn't do anybody else any good. So we're looking at things today, and the commercial aspect of things. Where do you hope to see it go over the next, presuming that everything opens back up and is back to full swing? Where do you see things going? Where would you like to see things going?
Well, I don't know about businesses right now. I'm a little apprehensive to have a comment about what's going to happen when everything opens up, because I just don't know where businesses are. I think those businesses that were ready to move, that needed to move, will move. But I think those people that were on the fence of should we or shouldn't we, I don't think they're gonna move. In the coming year, 12 months out. I think they're gonna keep their capital in house and stay pretty close. So that means for us is we need to do a better job getting out there with the message. And I think we do a pretty good job with our mailings and our emails and all the information we send out. But I think I think this is a good corrector, and we can go back in there and kind of hit them hard with you don't have to call engineers. We got this, and tell a good story, because we got this. I mean, we did that 175,000 square foot, and then I turned around the next day and did a 25,000 square foot industrial building, back to back. And there are some companies, that the high school would have taken them all week, and they wouldn't have been able to do the other job, for another week after that, because it would have taken them a week to write the report.
Yeah, and now with the stay-at-home orders, the report is key. And I know some of those reports you've spent quite a bit of weekend time busting out some of those reports. But again, it's the detail that our clients are paying for, and it's easy to any person that can fog a mirror can go out and do a commercial inspection, technically, but can they really deliver? And that's what we're here to
and that's been my
do.
argument for a while. Andrew, is where home inspection's regulated, commercial is not. And so there are a lot of home inspectors out there that get called to do a commercial job that are absolutely not even close to being competent and qualified, but they think it's sweet money because they went to a forum. And so I call them dabblers. Those are the guys that like to dip their toe in the water and say, "I went swimming."
Which I think is about 60% of our industry is dabblers right now.
It absolutely is, and that's the sad part about it. And we're not gonna fix that. So
no, certainly not going to fix it. But Rob, it's been great chatting with you. I know we connect on a regular basis. Just wanted to do this in a different format. Episode 0001, talking with license number 00001, on just a little insight on himself, the evolution of the business, and we look forward to continuing to evolve our technology and our communication, and who knows where we'll be 10 years from now, but hopefully you're still listening to the BrickKicker, as the reliable resource for your inspection needs. So thanks, Rob, for taking the time out of your busy schedule, and we'll get this out to our listeners, and we hope to have more listeners on our next episode.
You're welcome. That was the quickest hour I've ever spent.
Right?